Good afternoon, everyone. This is Raisa here from CIO News, and I'm present here today for Security event. And I have with me Mr. Vishal Gupta, CEO and founder of Seclore. Welcome, sir. Very warm welcome. And my first question to you is, since you interact with a lot of CISOs around the world, what are some of the key trends and challenges you see in the current landscape?
I think that the CISO's job, one realization here is that the CISO's job is not easy. And it is becoming more and more difficult as time progresses, because managing business objectives like making products or selling services and so on, and security and compliance, a lot of times mutually conflicting, right? So CISOs are very frequently seen as very strict parents, which nobody likes. So the CISO's job is not easy. Right? That is one thing, and it is becoming more and more difficult. The other pattern that we've seen is that globalization is affecting the CISO's job in more profound ways than most people know.
Okay.
Let's say I'm a CISO of a small manufacturing company with only presence in one city, right? Or a factory and an office and so on. So in theory, as somebody who's running a very small setup in one city, I shouldn't be concerned about how Chinese hackers are trying to hack into Ukrainian defense establishment. Correct. Right? So I'm just like, let's say I'm making plastic bottles and selling it to whatever, right? That's not true anymore, right? So there's a lot of things which are happening globally which affect very, very what might appear as unrelated entities, right? Because I might, as a small manufacturing company, I might be using Google services, Microsoft services, and so on. And when this agency hacks some other agency, I might get affected in the process, right, as collateral damage. So just the awareness that, hey, there are things which are far beyond what is my purview, and for the CISO to become more and more globally aware is becoming a prerequisite, which was not the case till very recently.
Okay. So in the context of staying ahead of the curve, organizations, what do you think are doing to enable customers in creating awareness and training for preventing and mitigating cyber attacks?
So I think preventing cyber attacks is almost a useless exercise, I would say, at this stage, right? And I know it might sound controversial, but let me explain. What I mean by that is that you are going to get attacked, right? It's a given. And it's the job of the CISO is so difficult that you can also safely assume that you're going to get breached if you have not already been breached, right? So we are starting with that assumption that you are going to get attacked. It's table stakes, and you're also going to get breached. That's also becoming table stakes. So now you're solving the third problem, which is assuming that there is a breach. How do you make sure that the damage is either non-existent or minimized, right? So you're solving now that problem, right? So to solve that problem, how do you make a breach harmless is now the new problem statement, right? It's not how do you prevent data breaches or how do you prevent attacks, right? It's about how do you prevent the damage to you as a result of a breach. And that's what we are now helping enterprises solve, is that you assume data is going to get breached. You are going to have a breach, right? Now how do you prevent, right, the damage? So it's almost like the thief is going to come and attack your home. That's assumed. The thief is going to be able to get inside your home and take away valuable assets. But is it still possible for you to not suffer as a result of that? Now in physical assets, that's not possible, right? In physical assets, what happens is if I come and steal, let's a piece of jewelry from your home, I have the jewelry and you don't have the jewelry.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That's the case with a physical asset, right? But that's not the case with a digital asset. If I come and steal your data, now I have the data, but you still also have the data, right? Now that creates very interesting dynamics on what effectively causes a breach. So if you can make sure that the copy of the data that I have is useless, but the copy of the same data that you have is useful, that can solve the problem.
Correct.
Which is not possible for digital assets, because a piece of jewelry like gold earrings, for example, right? That gold earring has objective value.
Correct.
Right? I can go and sell it to somebody, and that somebody is, because there's an objective price of gold, I can sell it those gold earrings for, I don't know, 10,000 rupees. But that's not the case with data.
Correct.
Because that same piece of data can be made totally useless for me and very valuable to you. And that's what Seclore is doing, right? Kind of assume your data is going to go, but how can you make it useful for yourself and useless for everybody else? That's what we are doing.
Okay. What is your take on shift in cybersecurity after the digital inflection point a decade ago?
The cybersecurity today, from 10 years ago to today, and Seclore has been a part of this journey for large enterprises, right, is moving from efforts to results, and also from infrastructure to data. So 10 years ago, people were saying, hey, I need to make my computer secure, I want to make my network secure, and I want to make my application secure, right, and so on, which is all effort based, right? Like I will do best practices, for example, I will create thought leadership, right, all of those kind of things. From there, it is now today, and if you, in that extends to compliance also, but today nobody cares about how secure your devices are, right, or nobody cares about how secure your network is. The only thing that people care about is how secure your data is.
Okay.
Because that's the thing I care about, right? I don't care about the laptop or the mobile phone or the network and so on. I just care about the data that is on that laptop and the data that is flowing on the network and the data that the application is processing and so on, right? So regulators, for example, are no more coming up with guidelines for best practices of securing devices, right? That was 10 years ago. Today, the regulators are only saying digital data privacy and so on, right? So they only care about data. So that's one transition, and therefore the effort is irrelevant, because the only thing I care about is the result. The result is, as long as your data is secured, everything is fine. And if your data is not secure, nothing is fine. It's become binary, right? So that's also one of the reasons that the CISO's job and the CIO's job also is becoming far more difficult.
Okay. So what are the new products coming from Seclore in terms of data protection, in terms of cybersecurity? Anything new?
Yeah, so we are just on the cusp of announcing a very big product release early next year, early 2024, as early as February. And the general philosophy that we followed in our products is look at the biggest reasons that enterprises have to share data and the biggest methods of sharing data, right? So for example, if you look at the methods, right, today the biggest way that people share data is emails, right, by a big margin. But then there are other methods like file sync and share, Dropbox and Dropbox kind of services. Then there are all kinds of WhatsApp, there are all kinds of services that you can use to share data, right, and so on. So we are going down this hierarchy of, hey, let's look at the top 10 ways that enterprises share data internally and externally and go focus on that method of sharing. And in that we are investing a lot on emails, which is
very important.
The biggest reason or the biggest way that enterprises share data is emails. And then going down that to cloud services like Box, Dropbox, SharePoint, right, to go down that hierarchy all the way, right? So we are going down that path. And the second thing that we are investing very heavily on is using artificial intelligence to figure out what is confidential data to start with. A lot of enterprises don't have a good answer to that question, right? If you were to ask even a mid-sized enterprise of, let's say, 1,000 people and ask, hey, where is your confidential data and what is it, right? Most enterprises will have a lot of trouble answering that question, right? So bring awareness about where is my data, what is it, then it leads to security and privacy, right, is kind of step 2. Step 1 is tell me where is it to start with, right? What am I hunting for? And so on. So we are investing a lot of time and energy and using bleeding edge technologies to identify and discover confidential data.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the information.